Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen are the pairs we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video. As always, there is a bonus pair for you. We'll go through my trade for the week first and then progress into the analysis. If you do want to skip ahead, feel free to do so. We do have the timestamps at the bottom for each pair. So if you want to skip ahead, go and do so. But of course, you don't need to watch the whole thing. But yeah, we'll go through my trade for the week first and then progress to the analysis. I did have a position on Aussie CAD this week, which ended in a loss. I was looking to catch the next level high in this bearish market structure. Let me get that out of the way. So yeah, the market is very consistent with these lower highs. I was looking to catch the next one. There was a nice confluence around this area, connecting these prior swing highs with this trend line and retesting some broken support, turn resistance as well. So I was looking to anticipate another lower high for continuation. Longer term, I do still see Aussie CAD selling off back to this low. We've broken outside of this counter trend line on the daily chart. So I'm expecting a bit of a bearish trend to fall, and I still am. Just because we are breaking the trend line doesn't necessarily mean direction is changing. We need structure to do that, and this is still the last kind of major lower high which gave us this push to the downside. So I'm kind of looking for price to go and break past that high before I rethink my bias altogether and probably start talking about push back to the high up there around 0.935. It just might mean price is having a slightly deeper pullback than expected before moving to the downside. So I'm still looking at downside. I do prefer New Zealand CAD, which we'll get to shortly in the video. It's a little bit cleaner and still within the trend line and the channel, which you'll see. But I am still short biased, but looks like I got into the market a little bit too early. Of course, if you do go and break structure, then I was in the wrong direction completely. I'll see what type of characteristics the market's giving us, then potentially start to look for some longs to take it back up again. So we'll see how that develops next week. In terms of the XY, which we'll look at before we get to the analysis, dollar's looking pretty bearish this week. Again, we'll be looking for retracement. The market has been showing signs of being a little bit tired, so a retracement is pretty due, and we are coming back to retest some strong levels of resistance. Now will be turned as support here on the dollar. So if we can hold this area as support, I'm still very bullish on the dollar, and long term still looking at a move back to 113, 113.5, 114 area up there. So I am bullish as long as we hold this level 107. If we start breaking through, let's say next week's candle gives us a really bearish candle closing below, that will invalidate my bullish bias, and I'll be looking at sells, treating that as a big fake out of the high, then looking for price to push right back down into support eventually, because all we've been doing for the past 2 years is ranging between those two levels. So if this is not the breakout, that's a fake out, and then we'll expect price to continue that swing to the lows. So very important level. At the moment in time, we're still testing it as support. In fact, we've just come into the level now. So I'm looking for buys on the 4-hour chart. This is kind of like our last major higher low, which gave us the higher high. So I want to see price respect this swing. Mapping out the fib. Ooh, let me delete some of those levels. 0.382, 0.236. There we go. So as you can see, we've just crept into the 0.618. So that really healthy pullback. I like this area here of confluence. Nice consolidation. Looking for a bounce there. I was talking about this area here last week, but I didn't see much of a reaction. That was a slight move to the upside, but only lasted for a day or two. Then the market went and broke through. So now I'm looking at this area. Nice consolidation. Really strong move to the upside. Haven't seen price come back here for a retest yet. This is the first time. So again, I'll be monitoring price, seeing how we react, and if things look good, I will be looking for some longs to take it back up again. From an intraday point of view, there probably will be some nice sells. The market's still pretty bearish, putting in these lower highs. So I would suggest if you're like the hourly time frame or below, probably looking at some corrections early next week for some more downside. But as we come into these areas, like I said, looking for buying opportunities to take it back up again. For Euro USD, pretty much the exact opposite. Really nice push to the upside, breaking through some of these highs here as well. So again, from an intraday point of view for Euro, looking at pullbacks and more upside makes the most sense. Retest some areas there. So again, 30, 15 minute, probably will be some nice buys early next week to at least trade it back to the high. And I would be careful because the dollar's in the same position as Euro USD in terms of all coming back to really strong levels of support, which of course now we turn resistant. And if we do respect this, we could come straight back down next week. So in terms of the buys, I would keep it intraday. Of course, we potentially could go further, but let's wait for evidence of us breaking above this level of resistance first before we do start to anticipate a lot more upside, because if we do break above this, I'll be very bullish on euro longer term. Again, treating that as a big fake out and looking for pullbacks and a lot more upside for a similar move as the dollar. So it's going to be a very important week next week to see what we do, whether we break through these areas or respect it. I'm still looking for downside. I'm still looking at this high here, which gave us this low. So again, looking for a pullback of that same leg. As you can see, we've broken through the 0.618, more or less coming to the 0.786 pretty soon. So again, I'll be looking for development in this area for some sells, and if things look good next week, I'll look for my entries and hopefully look to start trading it back down to these lows if we are going to see that trend continuation. But I'm still bearish on euro. We haven't broke above the zone yet. We haven't taken out these highs yet either. Once we do those things, then I'll shift my bias long term, but we are in an area where we could see some downside. So waiting for some development, confirmation for entries, and hopefully find some shorts in this area. And then hopefully if the trend does continue, we could look to target back at these lows again. Like I said, if we do break through those areas, I'll switch the bias. But for now, still looking for shorts around the 1.0449 area. And if things look good, hopefully a swing back to the low at 1.02 for next week. Okay, so over to dollar yen. So very bullish on this one, still looking for buying opportunities. I've been talking about this area of confidence for a while now. Really nice consolidation, strong move to the upside, followed by a nice Fibonacci level 0.5 running through that zone. So I'm looking to see if we can come back and retest that area. At the moment, the market is just consolidating just above us. So I'm kind of hoping for one more break to the downside to test that area, look for confirmations, and see if we can swing it back to the high there at 158.5. But more importantly, back to the weekly swing high, which is all the way back here at 162, or at least just underneath 162. So that's the real target there for dollar yen. Overall, higher time frame still very bullish, as we can see. No break of structure. We actually use a very significant level of resistance as support not long ago. So I do think from the bounce of this area, it probably will take us eventually back to the highs. So more confidence, more evidence of us potentially pushing higher and just seeing an overall trend across numerous time frames. So very, very bullish for dollar yen from a top-down perspective. Nice area of interest. Just need price to actually get there, and then we can look for some entries, and then of course targets. At least targets back to the high here at 158.5. That'll be the first major target, because of course we could see price come into this area, reject it, and very much sell off again. There's no guarantee that we do break through that level and get to the weekly zone up there. So definitely looking to lock in gains at that high. But the idea will be to trail stops, see how far we can take the position, and hopefully it can be all the way back to 162. But very, very bullish for dollar yen for now. Looking for entries at this 154.5 area, and at least target 158.5 for next week. Okay, so over to dollar CAD. So dollar CAD, more ranging price action. We have yet to break out of this range. So I'm not really interested with price inside of it. I think there could be some nice opportunities outside of it, whether up or down. I'm still very bullish on dollar CAD. I'm looking for price to eventually come back and test the highs here on the weekly chart. But if price does break to the downside, there may be that opportunity for a really big pullback before we do go and do that. So that could take a while. Hence why there could be some really nice shorts to take advantage of as well. But we've been consolidating for a while, which tells me that when we do break out, we probably will have some decent momentum behind it. So if you do break to the upside, of course, looking for a break me test of the high looks good. I'd wait for price to really show evidence of the breakout. We have had some fake outs recently as well. So waiting for price to close at least 2 or 3 times above with some healthy size candles is always a good sign of a healthy breakout. If we just close above or just close below, often fake outs, and you don't really want to follow those opportunities. Same to the downside. If you can see price close below well, look for some retests and pullbacks, and there could be some really nice shorts to take advantage of as well. For dollar CAD, I'm more interested in the buys, but we may come down first, have those bigger pullbacks, whether to retest the high on the left at 1.415, which is the area I was looking at for dollar CAD, or we might come even deeper to go and test 1.4, 1.395, where we've got that big weekly zone at longer term. But for now, for next week anyway, more focus on the breakout of this consolidation. That's where the focus will lie on. Probably next week we'll start talking about some buying opportunities or selling opportunities, depending which way we break out. But for now, just looking for the break and retest of these areas, and looking to ride that momentum either which way we go. But as long as we stay in the range, not really interested in dollar CAD. Hopefully next week we put that to bed, get the breakout, and we can look for some retest. But that'll be the plan next week for dollar CAD. Okay, so over to Euro Pounds. Euro Pound, I am still looking for buys, but we have come pretty close to a nice area for a sell. We are looking pretty bearish right now, but we haven't actually quite hit that area. So I'm wondering whether price may still go and test that level, which is this really powerful level of support. You can see we bounced there a few times, have some nice trendline confidence connecting the highs there as well. I'm looking to see potentially if we can put another lower high in that area and catch a nice move to the downside. I've been looking for buys for Euro Pound ever since we had this breakout here. I've been looking for the retest of this level, but price just kept going and going and going. Never had the pullback I was looking for, but potentially now it's on the cards. You can see we kind of rounded off here, and now we're seeing some really heavy bearish momentum. I'm wondering whether that would just continue to the downside next week, and then we can find our buying opportunities probably late into the week, because we are still pretty far away even with that bearish momentum there towards the end of the week. So I am still looking for buys. The main reason I'm still looking for buys is because of where we are on the monthly chart, really massive level of monthly support. So as we do approach these areas, I'm naturally looking to buy. Of course, we could break through, but I'd wait for price to give me evidence of that happening first. I always anticipate price respecting a level of support or resistance until proven otherwise, essentially. So as we do come lower, I'm looking at these areas. We do have some bullish structure now as well. We formed that double bottom a while ago, formed another higher low here, broke the high really aggressively. So I do think we can at least get a bounce. It may not take us all the way back to the high there. I'll be trading stops anyway, so I'll just let the market exit me from the trade, and we'll probably judge in terms of targets closer to when we get there. But for now, still looking good as an area to buy from, 0.832, and this area up there, as we just mentioned, still looks like a really nice area for a short. I just wonder, because we're looking very bearish at this moment in time, will we get back up there for some entries? It, of course, will be yet to be seen, but still looks like a very healthy area to short from. If we do get there, looking for confirmations. If we do get to the low here first, looking for buy confirmations, of course. But otherwise, I don't see much in this area here for Euro Pound until we get to one of those two areas. So that's really where the focus lies for Euro Pound. Keep an eye on 0.832 and 0.85 for opportunities next week. Okay, so over to Aussie dollar. So it looks like we're going through some retracement. We've taken out some major lows on the daily, weekly chart here. As we can see, this is the weekly chart for Aussie dollar. We've taken out this low, so naturally expecting a bit of a bounce there for Aussie dollar, because number one, the market's pretty stretched. We haven't seen much of a pullback for a while since the high over here. And the fact is we're taking out some major lows as well, which naturally you expect the market to retrace after taking out. So there's numerous reasons why we're expecting the market to see some upside. However, the trend does look still very bearish to me. So until I see evidence of that changing, I'm still looking for more downside, and I'm still looking to see if you can get a pullback at least back into these areas. Really strong level of daily support we've broken through, yet to come back and retest. So I'm looking to see what we can do in that area. We're looking very corrective in the way up. Haven't really seen heavy bullish momentum yet, so still giving us characteristics of a market which is having a pullback. So if we can get there, see some evidence, I'll be more than happy to look for some sells. And then again, if things look good, hopefully take it right back to the low and maybe further as well. So very, very bearish on Aussie dollar at the moment. No signs of a reversal. Still looking at this as retracement. And yeah, 0.637, 0.64 we'll call it, just to round it off, is really the area we're looking for some shorts, but basically the retest of that daily level there. So yeah, that's the plan there for Aussie dollar. Still looking for downside. There may again be some nice intraday buying opportunities there for Aussie. Oh, don't know what happened there. There may be some nice intraday buying opportunities on some pullbacks, trying to catch the next higher low on the hourly or 30-minute chart. So look for that if you're on the intraday time frames. But if you're looking for a bit more of a swing, you're waiting for price to come a little bit higher, and hopefully you can find some entries around the 0.64 area. But that is the plan next week for Aussie dollar. Okay, so now onto New Zealand CAD. So I like this one a lot. This will be in the watch list next week. I'm looking for a lower high to develop here. Again, on the higher time frame, similar to Aussie CAD, which we looked at at the start of the video, we've broken through this upwards channel here. As you can see, connecting the higher lows and the higher highs, we've broken through that. So since we've had that breakout, I've been expecting price to head back to this low. I'm actually looking for price to break through the low. We've just missed it. So the way I see this bullish move happening is that it's a pullback for this bearish sequence here, and then we're likely to form a lower high to come back down. So my plan is kind of find and catch that lower high and ride it back to the lows. You know, these are the past lower highs, 1, 2, 3. I'm looking to see if I can catch the fourth. You can see we're still kind of operating within this channel here. In fact, we're coming to the end, the top end of it pretty soon. So if we can see some evidence of lower highs forming here, looking for some confirmation for entries in this area, and we don't go and of course break through, I'll be looking to see if I can get into a trade and swing it back down to these lows just below 0.8, 0.796 we'll call it. And that will be the swing I'm after. A really nice opportunity. Risk to reward should look good as well. And overall, just in a nice high probability area where we can see some downside. Haven't seen much momentum in this up move to tell me that, okay, we're about to reverse. Unless, of course, from somewhere we have a big explosion to the upside, which could definitely happen. But at this moment in time, things still look very corrective, and we're coming into a healthy area of confluence where we can see a lower high. So looking for confirmations at this 0.819 area and looking to take it back down to 0.796. And that will be the plan next week for New Zealand CAD. Okay, so over to pound NZD. So looking to buy this one. If I go to the daily chart quickly, you can see how consistent we've been with these high lows. 1, 2, 3, the double bottom there, 4, 5, looking for another one. We do have a massive daily high here on the left, taken across, which does line up pretty well for potentially the next high low. So I'm looking for price to come a little bit further down before I do look for buys. I can see at this moment in time, price has had a bit of a move to the upside just before the weekly candle close, but overall we are kind of consolidating here. So I'm looking to see if we can have one more drive to the downside, go test that area I'll be mentioning at 2.15, and hopefully we can start to look for some buys, potentially to swing it back to the high all the way up there. Now it is pretty optimistic. The possibility is there if the trend's going to continue, then yeah, we're going to get back to the high. But of course, I would watch out for some of these areas on the left where we could put a high in and potentially roll over and see a bigger move lower. I will be trading stops, so I'll let the market exit me from the trade, but I'll be giving it room for potentially that big swing to the high there, 2.236. But in terms of the area of interest, still looking to obey those higher lows until we break that structure. Then of course I'll reinvestigate, but for now higher lows are still intact, so looking for entries in this area, and hopefully we can trade at least back to 2.18 for next week, which is the high there. But if things go well in the longer term, could be looking at a push to 2.236. So that's the plan next week for pound NZD. Okay, so over to CAD Yen. So CAD Yen, I am looking for some more upside, but long term I am still pretty bearish. Again, the leg I'm looking at is this massive bearish leg, and I'm looking at all of this bullish behavior as a correction for that, for some more downside. So that's what I'm looking at for CAD Yen. In terms of actually trading that, I do need to see price push back to the high here, which is at 111.5. So I'm looking to see if we can make a move up to that level first and then look to short. At the moment, things do look pretty corrective here for CAD Yen. I have talked about breaking test opportunity here for some shorts, and we have seen that. We have seen price come up there for the initial reaction, nice move down, but since then we have been very sideways. You haven't really seen price really pull away from that level. It respected support, and now it's kind of consolidating. So overall, I'm not really a big fan of this price action here for CAD Yen. It's pretty flat, and looks like we are respecting some lows here on the left, which of course gave us a really strong move to the upside. So if CAD Yen was to break higher, break through the resistance here, I do think on an intraday level, there could be some nice buys to look out for. Maybe coming back to retest this resistance, now turn support again, and ride it back into the high there at 110.500. What I'm looking to see happen for CAD Yen is that push to continue back to the highs at 111.5, and then I'll look for my longer term sell at this area, hopefully for a big swing back to these lows, potentially lower, but of course I'll be trading stops and just seeing how far I can take that position. Because essentially if we are going to see the continuation of that big bearish move, then you would expect us to head to that low eventually, but of course I may get trailed out beforehand. So that is definitely a situation that could occur. But for now, very bearish in CAD yen. But in terms of the immediate price action, I do expect to see more upside. I've had a look at the yen basket as well. It looks like we'll probably see a move to the downside there for the yen basket too. So CAD yen likely to push higher. There could be some nice intraday opportunities. Wait for us to break back above this level of support and then use it as support, of course, and then hopefully we can ride that back to the highs and then talk about some shorts maybe next week or the week after. So that's the plan there for CAD yen. Opportunities on the long side, again, not really a fan of them, so not opportunity I'll be looking for. It's a bit too congested. It looks like consolidation to me, and I don't like trading within consolidation, so I'm looking for that push to the upside, and hopefully you can find some sells at this 111,500 area and look for a big swing. So that's the plan next week for CAD JPY. Okay, so over to pound USD. So very bearish on pound, looking for a lot more downside. If I go to the daily chart, you can see we've broken out of this ascending channel a while ago. And ever since we've done that, we've been looking very bearish, a lot of momentum. So I'm looking for more downside and a continuation of that momentum. Really strong move here. Looks like we're coming back to retest some support, now turn resistance. So looking for another lower high in this sequence. We've had one over there, second there, third, and now in a healthy area where we could put a fourth and potentially see the continuation of that move. If I do whip out the Fibonacci from the high to the low, you can see we've come into the 0.5, might even spike into the 0.618 next week if we start the week potentially off a little bit bullish there. But we're in an area where price can see some downside and a low high could form, which is essentially all I want to see. Now I'm looking for my confirmations to get into the trade. I was speaking about this area here last week as well, but didn't really see much of a rejection, so I stayed out in the market. Now we're back at 1.25, which is the second level I was looking at. At the moment, no real sign. Of course, we've had this big bullish candle closing into the level. A small reaction there with that bearish candle, but of course, nowhere near enough to get into a trade just yet. So we'll be looking for some entries and development in that area. If things look good, we'll find my entry, stop loss above the high or above the level. Then if everything goes well, hopefully swing it back to the low, which is roughly around 1.21 there. So very bearish on pound USD, expecting more downside, looking for a lower high in this area, and hopefully we can swing it back to the low and potentially further as well. That's the plan next week for pound USD. Okay, so over to pound CAD. So pound CAD, I was talking about some downside this week. I was looking for price to respect this area of support and look to see if we can have that sell, because I'm looking for this bullish trend for CAD yen, not CAD yen, sorry, for pound CAD to finally see a, not necessarily a reversal, but at least a bit of a counter trend move to the downside, even if it wants to have a slightly bigger pullback, because we are seeing signs of it running out of steam. The fact that we're forming these equal highs there with respect to this level on a few occasions now, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've struggled to break the highs there, and we're seeing really strong bearish legs to the downside, which again is another sign of a market tiring. So I do think eventually we will have that move down, but as this area of support turn resistance has failed, the next big level would be back at that same level of resistance at 1.81. So I do think some shorts look good here. It looks like we could be forming just a really big consolidation in more or less equal highs there. These are our equal lows down at the low here. So more or less waiting for price to get to the top of the range to look for some shorts. Really strong breakout, really strong candle close there on the 4-hour chart. So probably will see price slowly make its way to the upside, and 1.81 looks like a very smart place if you are looking to short pound CAD, and possibly could look to swing it back to the low. But I would be careful, because although shorts look good here, we are still counter trend. The trend hasn't necessarily reversed yet. Yes, we're seeing some signs that it's slowing down and could reverse, but it hasn't, and it could continue. So possibly a pushback down to that same level at 1.775 looks good. And of course, you can always leave some positions to run if you are looking for a slightly bigger move, but I think that would be the sensible decision. So yeah, pound CAD did not hold that level, but 1.81 looks like a really nice level to short from. We've seen multiple rejections in the past, so if we do see some more, probably will see price take a bit of a dip from that area, and 1.775 looks like a logical target to have with a decent risk reward as well, depending on your entry, of course. But that'll be the plan next week there for pound CAD. Okay, so over to pound yen. So pound yen, similar analysis to CAD yen in terms of I'm still looking for a big continuation on the daily chart for that big drop we had last year, July. I'm looking at this as a really big correction of that and a big continuation. However, I do want to see price push back to the high here for a short and then look for the big short and possibly take it back to the lows there, but we'll see. I'll be trading stops, so we'll see how long I can stay in the trade for if everything does go to plan. But there is a couple areas I'm looking at. There is this possible area for a break and retest for a short. It's not as good as the opportunity up at the high here because number one, pound yen is still forming higher lows here on the daily chart and the 4 hour. So I have to be careful of that. We've got the initial low there, second, third, and potentially fourth. So me shorting here, potentially I might catch another one of those higher lows and price, goes against me there. Whereas if price is at the high, naturally expecting us to turn around. Of course, we could still see another higher low form, but there's a lot more distance between my entry and where that higher low could form, which means the profits will still be worthwhile, whereas this have to be a bit more careful. We're currently trading at that level at the moment. Let me just delete some of those drawings. We're currently trading at the level at the moment, so if we can see some rejection early on next week, could be looking at some shorts right at the start of the week. If we just break through, very much we could open the market bullish, and by London session Monday we could be trading above it. So in that case, I'll wait for price to push back to the high there at 199.5, and then I'll start to look for my entries up at that level, which again may present itself maybe the week after, not necessarily next week. But again, from an intra-week or intraday point of view, if we do break to the upside, there could be some nice pullbacks on the lower time frames to ride that up, to try and catch the higher lows as we come back to this high and so on and so forth, back to 111.5. So if you are on the intraday basis looking at pound yen, I would say buys look good should we break through this level here, and you're kind of looking for pullbacks to ride it back up to 199.5, and then hopefully we can find some sells at a later date. But that really is the plan there for pound yen for next week. Okay, so now on to gold. So gold is looking very bullish. We're very close to the all-time highs, as we can see on the left there, 27.90 roughly. Looking for price to essentially go and take that out next week. We're very, very close to doing that. It's probably a pretty high chance we go and do see that move. I've been looking for a pullback for the breaking retest of the high here. That was the plan this week, looking for price to break resistance and hopefully retest it as support. Didn't quite see that happen. Was pretty close there midweek, but we just were too bullish. It's still an opportunity as long as we don't take out the high there. I'm still very much looking for that buy, because if we don't take out the high and do see the pullback, there's still a very high chance we go and do that. So if we do get a retest, the opportunity to hold a trade to the all-time highs becomes a really high probability move, and definitely a trade that I want to be in. But I would suggest that there are some areas we could look at other than this area for the trade, but it's a bit more intraday, which is more a retest of the high here. In fact, let me drop to the hourly chart. More of a retest of the high here. We can see a bit of a reaction there, so we might start the week a little bit bearish, see a bit of a pullback, and maybe even Monday New York session where we're already flying to the upside again. So something intraday, keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on that opportunity there for gold. You can see the high lows. I can even go back and mark these high lows as well, being very, very consistent with them. So as long as that trend stays intact, from an intraday point of view, we're going to continue. But if we can have a slightly bigger pullback to retest that level, that would be great. That's an opportunity I'll be looking to see if I can get involved with. But yeah, from intraday level, keep an eye on the break and retest of 27.60. If you're looking for a bit more swing, this level looks great still, 27.20. Haven't really come back for the retest yet, so would imagine we should have a nice bounce most likely. And yeah, hopefully take it back to the highs and a lot higher as well. But very, very bullish on gold. Let's see if we can go and take up the highs and create some new highs next week. Okay, so next up we've got Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is stuck in a bit of a consolidation right now. If I go to the weekly chart, you can see a bit more of a bird's eye view of what price is doing. Since that last massive bull run, price had that big consolidation. Then we've had another big push. And this looks to me just like another consolidation for potentially another one of those moves to the upside. It may result in a move in the opposite direction, but again, I would just imagine it's a pullback for price to later continue to the upside. It might want to come back and retest, find some more buyers, and then continue. But I am still looking at Bitcoin in terms of the larger scale as a very bullish market. But of course, zooming onto slightly lower time frames like the daily chart, it is looking a bit stagnant. We are failing to break the highs. Of course, we had really strong support underneath us, and all we are doing is just consolidating. So in terms of a good opportunity on Bitcoin, I would wait for the breakout. This is the type of the market that when it breaks out, it breaks out. So if we can see price break above the high, there could be some really nice opportunities to ride this to the upside, back to well, new all-time highs where it could be, but I would say 120 is probably our next big psychological level. So that's kind of where I would see price ending up next. So Bitcoin, in terms of opportunities, we are stuck at the highs there. I wouldn't mind looking for shorts at the high there. It's not really my type of trade, but because we've attempted to break the high on numerous occasions, I can understand people looking to sell here, try and anticipate another swing to the downside, but I would very much stay bullish on Bitcoin, looking for buying opportunities. So the only good buying opportunities I do see right now is if price can break the high, or price come back and retest the low, or of course we get that bigger pullback to go and retest this level here around 73k and see some buys from this level here. So those are the only buying opportunities that look good. In the range they were very flat, so need price to show momentum outside of that for the breakout, or at least come back and retest the low. Or if we're gonna have a bigger pullback, then of course 73, 74k looks very good, but that's going to be way into the future. It's going to take a while for us to get there. So more concerned about these opportunities, and more so about the breakout if we do get one next week. But that there is the plan for Bitcoin for the foreseeable future. Okay, so last but not least, we've got a bonus pair, which for this week is NAS. So I'm expecting a lot more upside for this one. I believe S&P has made new all-time highs. US 30 is looking very bullish. It looks like it's on its way to do that, and same thing with NAS. Looks like we're on our way back to those all-time highs, which is just above us there at 22,100. So I really like this one for more intraday opportunities. We've broken outside of this trend line, connecting those highs. We've broken through that and been pretty consistent with these higher lows here. So looking for essentially the next one, and there's two areas where that could form. If I drop to the hourly chart, you can see we are creating some support at the moment, and we could use this area to potentially continue. I like the rejection down the hourly chart as well, so could see some early entries next week for NAS to continue to the upside, bit like a big bull flag correction. So there's your equal highs, equal lows, and then looking for the continuation there to the upside on the next move. Or potentially, if that does fail, we could potentially come a little bit lower to retest the high here, and look for entries in this area around 21,600 again for the same move, which again could be the better move essentially, because price is now further away from those lows there, and you're also at an area where price has found resistance previously and yet to come back for a retest, and of course the risk to reward will be a little bit better as well, back to the high. Or again, you can look to target these highs as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be back at the all-time high at 22,100, but I would suggest there's a pretty high chance NAS does go and take out those highs pretty soon. Probably by the end of next week would have done that. But yeah, looking very bullish here for NAS. Lovely uptrend. You can see the higher lows, essentially looking for the next one, whether we are printing it now at this low or slightly deeper. Those are the two areas that look pretty good to me. Expecting at least a push back to the high there at 21,900 for next week, but I do still see us putting new highs pretty soon for NAS as well. So I would keep an eye on that for NAS. But yeah, very, very bullish, expecting more upside. S&P's made new all-time highs, so I do think NAS is going to follow suit. But guys, that does bring us to the end of the analysis. If you have found it useful, please be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, hit the bell so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the week. Comment down below any pairs, any markets you're looking to trade next week. I'm eager to find out. Make sure you do check out the Elevating Trades Discord channel, completely free to join, linked in the description below. But guys, have a great weekend, have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the new week.